Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight's show is going to be about a disturbing behavior, attitude that I am witnessing right now that indicates to me that people are on a path of self-destruction, that they have some kind of death wish. Whether it is going out and protesting during a pandemic or demanding that different states reopen their government, their businesses, their state, while we are still not out of the woods. I mean, I've heard a lot of blame being thrown around about what we could have done and when we could have done it sooner. Well, we're doing something now and people don't seem to get it. People don't seem to understand that we have to keep doing it. Otherwise, we're going to have a great loss of life. And it's not okay. It's not okay to say, these people can die. This many people can die. This percent of the population can die. Which of your family members do you want to be in that list? Which one of your family members, loved ones, are you willing to sacrifice for the economy, for the greater good of the economy? I'm not willing to sacrifice any of my family members. I want them all to live. And I suppose that a lot of people out there feel the same way that I do. So, even though the president hopes and wishes that we could reopen the economy and is suggesting that some states that have a more limited population, more less dense population, or, a lot of space between people, like they don't have a lot of big cities like North Dakota, like South Dakota, like Iowa,
like Wyoming,
like Montana. You know what I'm talking about. And it just so happens many of those states are Republican states, and some of them apparently are getting hydrochloroquine for everybody to try, as they are doing in South Dakota. Today, during the press conference, the president said, when he was pushed about reopening governments and listening to his health experts, he said, we will get some places open. Not everybody, maybe, but some places. And we're going to give those places extra help. We're going to give them things they need. Like South Dakota gets hydrochloroquine. Is that what that means? Does it mean if you're willing to reopen your state's government, if you're going to be one of the guinea pig states where they're not going to give a stay-at-home order, where they're going to lift up those restrictions in such a way that is going to force a lot of folks to go back to work because they don't have a stay-at-home order in place from the federal or the state government to protect them from having to go back to work. Let me tell you a scary story, okay? Let me tell you a scary story. This is happening in one of those states that hasn't got an order in place, that probably never will. My old home state of Iowa. It just so happens that one of my brothers has symptoms. And he's supposed to be going to work soon. He went to the doctor and they told him to quarantine. They don't have enough tests in most of these states, including the ones that are not giving any stay-at-home orders, like Iowa. And he doesn't have a positive COVID test. He doesn't know what he's going through. He's just not feeling well. But during a time of pandemic, do you think people need to chance it? Do you think people should chance whether or not they go back to work if they have symptoms of something that could be pandemic adjacent, that could be COVID adjacent? Would you want that person to be forced to come back to work and work next to you in
Nope.
your office, shoulder to shoulder with you?
No, I wouldn't want that.
I mean, I think that it is up to us as individuals, especially if you live in one of these states like Iowa, like North Dakota, like South Dakota, that are not going to have restrictions, that never have had restrictions properly in place, and that probably never will, and that are probably going to be the guinea pig states that open up again to see how it goes. And maybe they're going to get hydrochloroquine. Maybe they're going to pass it out over there in North Dakota like candy. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they will. Maybe that's the help that the president is referring to in order to get people back to work. And listen, I get it. The stock market's tumbling, the threat of a recession, a depression, unemployment rates skyrocketing. People not being able to work means people not being able to feed their families, to, and if the lines to get food at the different charity locations that we've seen, where they're like flying helicopters and drones over the area and showing you lines that back up for miles, are any indication of the food insecurity that we have in our country, I get it. We're in a lot of trouble. This isn't going to get any easier. But the fact of the matter is, if we go outside, congregate around each other, do not maintain quarantine, maintain safe distances, we're going to have another wave of death, of contagion, of sickness, and likely of quarantines, of rolling quarantines. South Dakota did not want to close that meat packing plant, Smithfield. They didn't want to close that down. They wanted to keep it going. These meat packing plants, like the one that I told you about in Iowa, the one that I told you about in South Dakota, they're part of the food supply chain. And it's one of the most important food supply chains that we have in America. To shut pieces of it down, parts of it down, are not just terrifying for the economy, they're terrifying for shortages of food. And yet, because they left it open, the number of COVID cases there now into the 500s, hundreds more, including family members at home that the workers that caught the COVID went and took the virus to, that account now for more than a third of the cases in all of South Dakota from one place. And these things are going to continue to happen to us in America. Even in the states that refused to put a shelter-in-place order, even in the states that decided that they were going to put a percentage of their population up as tribute to the economy. And unfortunately, just so happens, the majority of those people being put out as tribute to the economy happen to be poor, happen to be vulnerable, happen to be Black and brown communities. We're seeing the numbers because they can't avoid going to work. They don't have any other way of surviving. I hope that whatever opportunity that you have on a personal level, if you're in one of these states that is not providing you the security, not providing you the umbrella of protection that you need right now, that you take into your own hands. Do whatever you need to protect yourself, to protect your family members, to protect the people that you love, because nobody's going to do it for us. So that's the topic of my show today. We're going to talk about this seeming death wish that people have. And we're also going to bring you a lot of information about what's going on locally in this country, across the border, and all over the globe. But first, I want to thank everyone that is sharing our programming. I hope that you took to heart what I said about getting a friend a radio, getting somebody you know a radio, get them a radio. Find out what the local station is that's doing what we're doing here at 88.1 FM, which is bringing you coronavirus-related information every day. Things that you can use in your life to help yourself, to help others, to find out what's going on in the community around you, to find out what's going on in the whole world. And support community radio with a tax-deductible donation today. Duke?
Thank you all for watching tonight. Really appreciate it. Got to go there. Oh, there we go. Really appreciate that you're joining us, and I want to make sure that you can get a hold of us if you would like to, or send us more information. Find out what works best for you. If you'd like to do a phone call and leave a message, you can call us at 701-566-0917. That's 701-566-0917. You can email Cindy at kpppfm.com, Duke at kpppfm.com. You can find us on Facebook at 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, and Mexican and the People's Press Project. We're over at Duke 1517 on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. You can join us there. And you can go to kpppfm.com. Look around. That's our main radio station website. Look around there, see what's going on, and also go to the donate tab. It's kpppfm.com/donate. Make a tax-deductible donation to our station to help keep us going, to help us provide this information and the ongoing program that we're doing that you love, that you listen to, and that you share.
Tiffany Hartling comments that in her state of Idaho, they just extended the stay-at-home orders for 2 more weeks. Well, Tiffany, I think that as things progress and we see a second wave of people falling ill and dying, leaders will be forced, as Governor Noem was forced to do, they will force the closing of these locations that are really focal points of disease, petri dishes of contagion. They're going to have to close them down as a public health issue. They can't keep those places open. I can't imagine, that somebody would have the gall to continue to let people spread in close quarters like at that meat packing plant. And, I have to tell you, when they first closed that meat packing plant, the request was made that they were going to close it for 2 weeks. Now they've shut it down indefinitely.
That's right.
Because they dragged their heels, and then they were like, "Oh snap, that was a big mistake. We're gonna there's a potential of a lot of loss of life here because we refused to act."
And they could have applied for the stimulus package right away.
Paid all the people.
And the whole deal with that, you had to be paying people to actually qualify. So they're just keeping them on. Probably filed it, and then when they got their money, they quit then. But it's like those packages are supposed to help keep things going. It hasn't went smooth. I mean, the stimulus checks aren't coming out until like this week, today. And people have been without money for 2 weeks. People haven't paid their rent. There's going to be paper checks going out. It's going to take more time for that because Trump had to sign them with his signature before they went out. His arm must be really tired, right? So it's like there's been a lot of holes in this stuff, and it's not very reassuring. And then they want to send people back to work. Like in North Dakota, they want to open up businesses in 10 days. In 10 days, just because the numbers are low. But as I'll show you in a few minutes, the numbers are rising. They're doubling in Fargo.
Sherry comments that there are many countries with no COVID-19, but that they've also heard that Texas won't peak until somewhere from April 26th to May 2nd. So I am praying the governor does not send people to work too soon. And, well, you know, Sherry, it all depends on whether or not the governor is going to let themselves be blinded as they watch people fall with this disease, fall ill, and have the healthcare system overwhelmed. Here's the thing: there's not a good margin of error for you as a leader of a state or the country, whatever. There is no good margin of error when you refuse to see the crisis in front of you. It will manifest in the collapse of the healthcare system, our hospital staff just being overexhausted, many of them falling ill, our first responders not being able to cope. You know, it's going to turn into that kind of a crisis. So hopefully they will figure that out sooner than later and act accordingly. Let's take a look at the world numbers right now. In the whole world, we have 2 million, over 2 million cases now. We're at exactly 2,056,055 cases. 2,056,055. Total deaths, 134,178. How many people have been tested now in the United States? 3,242. 3 million people out of 100 and some million people.
Or 260 million people.
200 and some million people. 260 million people. That's not a very large percent of the population.
No.
And in New York, they've tested over 526 million people. In California, they've tested over 200 million. In Florida, they've tested over 200,000. Crazy. I kept just saying million. Okay.
I was like, what?
In New York, they've tested over 500,000. Change those all into thousands, excuse me. California, over 200,000. Florida, over 200,000. Texas, over 151,000. New Jersey, over 144,000. Remember, these are places that have millions and millions and millions of people.
Yes.
In the United States, we have right now 644,061 cases. And we have 28,526 deaths. Recovered, 48,701.
Wow.
The states, as I've said, they are having a lot of cases. 752 new cases in New York since I last reported. 351 new cases in New Jersey. 151 new cases in Massachusetts. Excuse me, these are deaths. These are deaths, not new cases. New York had 11,525 new cases and 752 new deaths. New Jersey had 2,206 new cases and 351 new deaths. Massachusetts had almost 2,000 new cases and 151 new deaths. So, and those are the places where I think it's really starting to peak, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of other states, like New Mexico, South Dakota, Hawaii, Montana, North Dakota, Alaska, Wyoming, there are not any deaths, or there is 1 or 2 deaths. So they're not anywhere near peaking yet. And I think that when that starts to happen, it's not going to be until after they have decided it's time to reopen the economy.
Yeah, and one thing about this whole peak, you got to remember it was this curve that you want to flatten, and we're peaking. We're still at a high level, and you're going to stay high at that level. And as it comes down, I mean, We're still going to see cases. We're still going to see deaths as it comes down. So just because it peaks doesn't mean it's over. I think people are feeling like, good, it peaked. We're good.
We're done.
We're done. It's like, no. Remember how you went up the hill? You got to go down the hill now. And so that's really important to keep in mind. So those of you doing homeschooling, for math, because we're math challenged, we're reading numbers every day, subtraction, division, multiplication. Teach those things. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's practical math. That way you can add things. You go to the grocery store. You can figure out that what's cheaper, how much is 2 for $3.50, things like that. It's very practical. Don't worry about all this other stuff with math. Just do those simple math things, and you'll be all right. Now, when it comes to our county here in Minnesota, there's a total positive in Minnesota of 1,809, and there's been 87 deaths in Minnesota. So those numbers are low, but still, those are 87 people who have died, in our state, which is sad, and in our county here, Clay County, we have 43 confirmed cases and 1 death. I didn't know we had a death here locally. I just found that out today, and that's sad too. And also,
is that our first death locally?
Yeah, that's our first death locally. Now in North Dakota, I want to talk about this because in North Dakota there's 11,317 total tested, 365 positive cases. There's means 24 individuals have went up since yesterday.
Wow.
It's usually been going up 10 a day, but now it's doubling. And I'll tell you why. And there's nine deaths total. So it hasn't went up at all. But look again at the county that we live next to, Cass County. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the 24 that are tested positive.
Wow.
And it's people's in their 30s, 40s, 70s, 20s, 10 to 19, 60s, 40s, 50s, 20s, and 50s.
Most of these are young people.
Young people. And the reason, this is Cass County. Again, this is the largest area in the whole state. And Minnesota has the stay-at-home, right?
Right.
And
but North Dakota doesn't.
North Dakota doesn't. But Minnesota authorities have charged nearly 24 people for violating stay-at-home executive order. And the state put out this simple little poster. So what's stay-at-home, these are the things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't take unnecessary trips. You shouldn't go to work unless providing a critical service. So you shouldn't socialize or gather in groups. And you shouldn't visit loved ones in the hospital or nursing homes except under limited circumstances. I'd say almost not at all, all.
You shouldn't visit loved ones,
period.
Full stop.
So people are violating this and they're getting arrested for it and fined. Meanwhile, over in Fargo,
oh my God,
they are looking at opening up the golf courses. And that is why we have so many cases in this area, because Fargo does not have a stay-at-home, and they are running around, life as usual. And now here they're going to open up the golf courses. Now, if you look at that picture there, that's the river, and on the other side of that river is Minnesota, and on the other side is North Dakota. So people on the North Dakota side are going to be playing golf, and right across the river are the Minnesota people who are basically stuck in their houses, but they're not spreading this virus. You can tell by the county numbers that are very, very low compared to Fargo. And Fargo keeps going up. And Bergen's wanting to decide to open up the government or open up the businesses again in 10 days. Great for the middle of North Dakota, but not great for Fargo. Here's one other thing that I found interesting. Black bears.
Oh no.
We have bears in this community. They don't come to North Dakota very often. They don't come in the cities very often. But now, since there's less people traveling, less people out, there's bear sightings. So if you see a bear, you're supposed to call the Department of Natural Resources and they report yogis out there. But they're very dangerous animals. They're very huge. But
I don't want to
they're
see
coming
a
to
bear.
town. Yep.
The bears are coming to town.
Yep.
No, I don't want a bear. Anyway, I wanted to share something. I told you I'm watching the nursing homes. This nursing home is from Wilton, Iowa. And in Wilton, the nursing home posted that they did everything they were supposed to do. They've been on they got on their COVID response early on. In early March, they shut everything down to all visitors, and they got rid of non-essential staff. They educated their employees. They used proper hand washing and infection control. They had personal protective equipment. They used social distancing. And despite all of that, they canceled communal dining, group activities. Despite all that, the virus got in.
Wow.
And they're coping with how this is going to affect them. When I saw this, my heart sank.
Yeah.
Because I saw so many folks from back home in Iowa, from that community, from my community, talking about the relatives of theirs that are in that nursing home, who are over the age of 90. Over, obviously it's a nursing home. There's going to be a lot of elderly people in there, but that they're now terrified that their loved one isn't going to make it out, and I just pray that we get to a point where we can talk about why there was not enough preparedness for the nursing homes, and how this ends up affecting people that are living in nursing homes, because the response so far, and I've been documenting it for a while, has been really bad. There had to have been a way they could quarantine the people in those nursing homes without staff coming and going. The lives of the people inside of those nursing homes were the most vulnerable and the most precious. Now, I wanted to share a post by legislator of North Dakota, Josh Boucher, speaking about the economic impact payments of the stimulus. So he says, no DACs who don't have their bank information on file with the IRS can provide that information through their new secure page to receive their stimulus funds. First, non-filers who weren't required to file in 2018 or 2019 due to income thresholds can provide their information now. And two, those who did file in 2018 or 2019 but didn't provide accounting information for direct deposit will be able to provide their information soon. Keep checking the website irs.gov for updates.
That's actually
good to know.
It's active today. They actually
good.
got it running,
cool.
and it's working. So.
How are people coping with the slow rollout of the stimulus payments? Has anybody gotten their stimulus payment yet? I have heard that some people have already gotten their stimulus payments, and I got to tell you, I was reading today that someone, I'm not going to reveal whose post it was, but a person posted very upset that their family member had gotten their stimulus payment and they had gone shopping. And they went out shopping right away with the stimulus payment. And so they went shopping at several different locations. And then they finally called this family member to say that they went to go to shop at Safeway, and there was so many people in such long lines that they decided to go to a different store, and they went and got Chinese food, and there was a line there. And then they went to Lowe's, and there was a line there. And then they stopped at the gas station, and this person was just appalled. They're like, so these people went, let me recap, he says, these people went to not two, but four establishments in this town, and they had no PPE on, no protective gear, no mask, no gloves, nothing. And this person said that they were scared. They were scared of what's going on. And this person that posted said they were really furious about the fact that, this whole group of people had gone out and gone to all of these places, probably got a bunch of people infected because they went home and infected their grandfather. So grandpa got infected, then grandma got infected from grandpa, and they infected the children that went home and infected other grandchildren. So now there's a total of 18 people that are infected, and 4 of them are in serious condition.
Wow, from this one person that
From this one person that went shopping and got their stimulus check and was running around doing all that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I hope you don't have a story about your stimulus check that has to do with people doing COVIDiot things like that. But I would like to know if people are getting their stimulus checks. Are you having problems? How are things going in your state in terms of filing for unemployment? Charlene Dupuis says, my daughter did, but I didn't. I'm on Social Security, which will not get it till next week.
Okay.
I guess us old people can wait. Oh, that's too bad, Charlene.
Yep.
I think the old people should get their checks first. I mean, the people that are most vulnerable should be people that we care for the most, that we take the most care for. I do have a Moorhead Police Department announcement. Several people have been getting contacted by an individual within the community stating, or I guess they don't know exactly who is doing this, but they're calling on caller ID. The number appears to be the Moorhead Police Department's number.
Yeah, it's being spoofed.
They're spoofing the Moorhead Police Department's number so that when you pick up the phone, it shows up on the ID that that's the number for the police department. And they're telling people that there is a warrant out for them.
Yeah.
That they're issuing the warrant for their arrest, but because of the virus, they're not going to come and physically grab you and throw you in jail. And so the Moorhead Police Department is advising all members of the community that receive this call to use caution and not give out any personal information to the caller. It's not clear what the caller is requesting. However, the police department is not currently reaching anyone to seek any personal information to quote unquote clear up any kind of warrant. So beware, folks, if you get strange calls.
I heard about that, and also the Fargo PD is starting to wear protective gear, masks and gloves, and they had to do a PR video saying this is what the officers is going to look like, and they got masks on. I thought that's it, that's that shouldn't be that unusual, but they're a little bit nervous about being masked, because the stereotypical robber wears a mask, So our Fargo police is now wearing masks and are being very cautious with their interactions with the public, which I appreciate.
Here are some of the comments about the stimulus money. Nancy Wadley says, got mine and paid 2 months ahead on my bills.
Great. Smart.
Sophia says, of what I just talked about with the people spending their money and going all over, infecting people, not wise. Use the money to pay your bills instead. I'm going to give half of my money to my parents so they can pay their bills. That's very sweet. That's a very good idea. Help your parents, right? Shirley Schaefer is going to use hers. She got hers and is using it to pay her bills. Kat Wright said that she used part of her stimulus money to buy business supplies that she couldn't get because the business's income had gone down. Another good thing to do with your money. Betty Lee Davis, who's also on Social Security, said she got her check today. Congratulations. So, folks, sounds like people are using this mainly to take care of business, to take care of the bills.
Yep. That's smart.
There are some people out there who I personally think they have a death wish, because when you decide you're going to go out and protest because you want to end the lockdown by having people who are not wearing protective gear congregate together very closely, you're putting yourselves at risk of death. Take a look at this video, disturbing footage from Lansing, Michigan, where they're protesting at Governor Whitmer's office at the Capitol to get them to reopen the government.
You're looking live at our state capitol, surrounded by protesters this noon. Those descending on Lansing are upset with the governor's executive orders that have forced many businesses to close. Those executive orders are designed to slow the spread of coronavirus, a disease that so far has killed 1,768 people in Michigan and more than 26,000 people across the country.
Wow. Again, they're not distant. They're not away from each other at all. They don't have masks on. They're just like, screw it. Just open up the businesses again. And they're out there potentially spreading this virus more than it would ever have been spread if they would just stay home and obey the order.
Michigan is number 4 in the list of 50 states with the most cases and the most deaths.
Wow.
How do you, if you're South Dakota, if you're North Dakota, if you're Iowa, and your numbers of deaths and your numbers of contagious people are low, I can see how you could, even though it's a stupid rationalization to think, well, my state is more sparsely populated, so I'm going to conclude less people will die, and therefore I'm going to put them at risk. I don't think it's a good move. And I think that people will remember if you make that kind of a move as a governor, because it's going to result in bodies of their loved ones piling up, and they won't forget that. But when you're in Michigan and you're number 4 and you got 28,000 cases in your state, you have 1,058 new cases in the last day, you have 153 deaths in the last day, you're going to have a protest to reopen the government. I don't know what this is exactly, but I think that there is this pushback, especially from Republicans, because the president made a statement that he was going to reopen the government. Not only did he say that, he got pushback. People said, well, the state governments will make those decisions about when they reopen. And he's like, no, I will make the decision about when I reopen for the whole country. And while the president has the power to direct, to suggest, he does not really have the power to tell a governor, open your state.
Yeah.
But you know what can happen? Exactly what you just saw. People going out and protesting and pressuring the constituents, saying to the government, we are the ones that hired you. We are the ones that pay you. We are the ones that voted for you. And you got to do what we say. And I hope that the leaders of the states that are put into these positions have the strength, have the wherewithal to operate in the best interest of everyone in their state, not just those that are squeaking the loudest.
Exactly.
So let's take a look at what the Snake and the Serpent posted recently.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's called The Sacred and the Snake. It's that new documentary that is going to come out soon.
Oh, yeah.
Featuring AOC.
Exactly.
And it is posting, and this is on April 1st, they were posting one of their most recent posts. It was about protecting Native elders in a pandemic. Remember, these are the same people that were working closely with the folks that framed an innocent, elderly Oglala Lakota woman and put her mother in an early grave while leaving her to rot in a jail. And they want to talk about protect any Native elders.
Yeah.
The reality is that these folks put people at risk, like one of the so-called quote-unquote security people named Messiah Sweetgrass.
Oh, yeah, I heard.
Look at this. They were also fundraising for her recently so that she can do COVID support. This is
What does that mean?
a woman that I guess is passing herself off as indigenous now.
Oh, wow.
And she is also in a queer relationship with another so-called Native activist. I don't know if she really is, called Little Wind. Here's the actual fundraiser, and it says support Little Wind and Messiah on the Wind River Reservation. It looks like they're having a party.
Exactly.
They're wearing full, I don't know, it looks like, hospital gear. They've got these like hazmat-like suits on.
Yeah.
And they have these like things on their head.
Yep.
How would you describe this? Help me out.
Oh, it's full protective gear. The gowns, they got the heads are covered, the face masks, the gloves. Probably have booties on their feet, so they're totally in the protective gear. But they're looking like they're at a party. One has their arms cross, the other one's jumping up and down, putting their arms way straight up in the air, So it's like, looks like it's a party. It's COVID-19 party.
Yeah. And then here's the next one. And this next one I'm going to show you is the actual fundraiser, Messiah, for supporting Messiah and Little Wind for their COVID-19. It says they've raised $25,000 out of $500,000.
My God.
$500,000 they want to raise for this woman, Messiah Sweetgrass. It says we are asking for help not just to show up if COVID-19 takes a turn for the worst in our community, but to use this opening to explore what are they going to explore?
You don't have it there.
Oh, that's the second one. That's the next one of the $500,000 goal. It says to explore the possibilities of self-sustainability in the midst of having our water and our land poisoned by uranium mining.
Okay.
Again, I never knew that Messiah Sweetgrass. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say it. She's not Native American.
Yeah.
She's not Native American. And just because she's having a sexual relationship with another woman that calls herself Little Wind and says she's Native American doesn't make her Native American by being adjacent. And what in the heck do you need $500,000 for? To go to Messiah and Little Wind.
Yeah.
Not to the people of this reservation, but to these individuals. They just want the money. They want the money. They're always looking for the money. It's disturbing because EIN recently announced that they were giving away grants. They received a large chunk of money for COVID response for people on the reservation. And where did that money go, Duke?
Well, actually, I was reading the...
They have a grant that they announced for the emergency, right?
Yeah, I saw the press releases come out. When this happened in 2 days, it went from, we've got some money, and we can give people, Native people, $2,000 each, for their family or individually to help pay for groceries, to pay for heat, transportation. And about 4 hours later, the second statement came out, and it was, wait a minute, remember that we got overwhelmed?
Please, it says, due to overwhelming response, meaning a lot of people needed this money.
Yeah.
And you decided, due to the overwhelming response, you're not going to give anybody any money.
That's right. They're going to just go to organizations.
It says we're only able to fund a portion of the applications we receive, and we are currently raising funds and can only distribute what we receive and will continue to do so. As resources become available, we will prioritize groups and organizations who are offering mutual aid as part of community organized efforts. So, mutual aid, remember, that means something.
Yeah.
It's not just, if a nonprofit, a specific nonprofit is offering, their own COVID response. No. I told you what mutual aid means. It has to do with the connection to the Border Support Network and the Antifa anarchist directed folks in that network. How do they operate? No transparency. I want $500,000 for COVID response.
Yeah.
Do you know if anybody that it was destined for got it? No. That's how these folks operate. No transparency. You heard it yourself from the people also involved in putting an innocent Oglala Lakota woman in jail and leaving her there to rot, putting her mother in an early grave. Those same people, Vanessa Bowling Clemens, you know who I'm talking about, Lolly B, in a video I showed you recently, said, you could go to nonprofits, but then there's like paperwork and all this, red tape for them to give you what you're supposed to get. Mutual aid, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Mutual aid is the best way to go. Mutual aid, you could just see somebody's roof is open and then boom, you give them the help.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Here's a bunch of money, goes to the Indigenous Environmental Network. They put out a statement saying, we got the money. We're supposed to give it to people for COVID relief. And a few hours later, they go, whoopsie doodle. Guess what? We changed our mind. We're not giving anybody anything. And the money that we are getting is now going to go to Antifa anarchist organizations. And they're going to get to decide who gets the money. You know what that means? If you're not on their thought plantation, you don't get no money. That's what that means. I'll translate for you. And for the record, here, let me take a comment. Joseph Yerecha comments, 11,680 potential cases in North Dakota by April 30th. Whoa. 292 deaths for North Dakota. This is projected, I'm assuming, Joseph, is what you're telling me. 11,680 potential cases by April 30th. That's only 15 days away. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And also very, very sad. I hope that is not the case. There's only 700,000 people in the state, approximately.
Yep. There's only been 9 deaths so far.
So what is really behind all of these conartivists, all of these activists, all of these mercenary activists that are really in it for themselves, that are really in it for the fame, that are Hollywood Indians, that are telling you out there that they're going to be here to help you with the COVID, but they're really just helping themselves, their friends, their partner organization, their allies that do what they want, what they bid. What did they say about their personal organization's response to COVID? Here's their statement they put out about what they're going to do, in which they declare all non-essential travel for contractors, for employees, is restricted until after April, at least April 30th, maybe even longer. But they're not going to have people moving, doing things. They're going to shelter in place. And remember, these are the folks that after that statement was made had a promise to protect Indigenous Environmental Network, had a promise to protect pledge, and they went and did a protest video with everybody, young and old, some wearing masks, some wearing them inappropriately, like the lady with the blue face covering.
Yeah.
Some taking them off during the video so that they can talk, not social distancing, bringing communities from different places all together, all of it to do a video against the pipeline. So which is it, EIN? Do you want to protect the people? Do you want to protect people on reservations in Indian country from outsiders who not too long ago they were claiming were bringing in the disease? The white man, the Waisichu is coming in and bringing in the disease. Keep the colonizer out. Keep the white man and his diseases outside of our community because they don't care. Or is it, hey, let's go out and congregate together and protest anyway? I don't know. It's a mixed message because just today, yesterday, they released this press release inviting people, well, not inviting them, but definitely promoting this protest that took place. Fort Peck, Assiniboine Sioux Nation elders holding their first frontline No XL action. Notice they're highlighting the elders. This is not a group made up of protesters that are only elders. There were young people there. I'm going to show you the pictures in a minute here. But take a look. This is the Indigenous Environmental Network, and there's the Promise to Protect Coalition that are part of that same group that we just looked at, did that other video where they put people at risk and didn't social distance properly, all in the name of protesting. This isn't to go out. What did you say those 4 things were? The only reasons that you should be going out, you shouldn't be going out.
You're an essential worker, emergency. Actually, the things you shouldn't be going out for.
You shouldn't be going out to visit friends. You
shouldn't
be
friends.
going. They need to add one on that list that says don't go out and protest.
Don't go on protest. Yes.
You shouldn't be doing that right now. Here is what Joy Braun, an employee of the Indigenous Environmental Network, who is sheltering herself in place because she herself is high risk. But she's also kind of giddy that these other elders and these other people that are Native Americans are putting their life on the line to kill the zombie pipeline.
Yeah.
They call it the zombie pipeline because they want you to know they already beat the pipeline, but it resurrected, you see. They had already won that fight. The truth is that all of this activism is a lot of it is for naught. A lot of it is to raise money, to raise profiles, but not actually to stop these infrastructure projects, which is why it's so hypocritical. But they want you to believe that they actually did. So she says, it's the zombie pipeline because we won. But actually, it's still being built. So it sounds ridiculous because it is. And of course, here is pictures of these folks in their post. They're young people here posing for the photo op. And here's another picture where, you know, here in this picture, they've got masks on. Here they are standing across the road, young and old together. Here they are with the no masks on at all. They're like, let's get a good picture.
Yeah, I want to look better in this one. So
yeah, take your mask off for this one. And then let's put some masks on, kind of. But maybe not over one person.
Yeah.
Just, you know, randomly. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Why not?
Oh, my God.
And what were they out there protesting? People far, far away from them in like digging equipment and trucks working on pipeline preparation infrastructure stuff. That's what they were working on. And if they were effective, folks, I want you to cue up the video of one of these people talking about oil in the veins. It's called oil vein.
Oil vein.
Mm-hmm. It's right there on the script. She's the lady that I told you was talking about how Mother Earth's veins were full of the oil pipelines.
I'm just trying to find it. There it is.
That the oil pipelines are actually the
I tried to skip ahead too far there.
The veins of Mother Earth. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. What I'm trying to say is, if they were effective at anything that they were doing, and it meant that they were actually doing the thing, I think I would have a different feeling about it. But you're putting people at risk. A lot of them are elderly. You don't seem to care. And then the messaging is just not there. It's cuckoo. Listen for yourselves. See if you can make heads or tails of this.
My elder from Fort Peck Tribe, Cheyenne Foot, what brings you here today?
Hi, my name is Cheyenne. I'm Fort Peck Sioux also. I'm here to help out. I was one of the kids back in the 60s that had to drink water that was contaminated. And it made a lot of us sick when we were going to school. We didn't know that, but it came from the oil. From where I come from, where I was going to school, it didn't taste good. I don't want my grandkids to have the same effect I had. It's repeating. It shouldn't be. I'm fighting for it. We don't need this bad stuff coming on us. Like the germs and Mother Earth being torn up. Those are her veins. The oil, that's her blood. She held it together all these years. Now we're opening her up. Look what she's survived all these years. And we're opening her up for things that we can't take with us when you journey on. None of this can come with us. Open their eyes and ears to all those that can't see and hear. Oh.
Man, and she got emotional there.
Yeah.
And I know that the tears work because it brought tens of thousands of people when LaDonna and you know, Winnie Locke shed their tears.
Yeah.
They would ramble on some similar to that, and then tears would come, and then people would be like, oh my gosh, there's a Native American woman crying. Let's go over there. And it got a lot of people hurt. And a lot of people got robbed, and a lot of people got defrauded. And in this case, what's really sad is that that woman is not social distancing. She's pulling down her mask. She has no good reason to be risking her life or the lives of any of those elderly women. No good reason.
Yeah. For an ineffective
protest infomercial gobbledygook that she said.
Yeah.
That they said. Nonsensical. That's what Indigenous Environmental Network is promoting. That people go out and do that nonsense in the middle of a pandemic. And let me just tell you that Native Americans on or off the reservation are going to comprise a large percentage of those infected and those that die. And so people of the earth are going to be watching these organizations, these tribal councils, these quote unquote leaders to see how they're leading. Mm-hmm. Are they really taking care of the people of their nations, or did they contribute to the genocide? Did they contribute to their deaths? They're falling ill. Because what I'm seeing from where I'm looking, it doesn't look good. All of you human rights defenders, all of you defenders of the sacred and the Mother Earth, I've been saying it for a long time, but now that during the pandemic you decided to continue to do what you do so callously, so openly, the world is watching and it will remember how many bodies you contributed to the death count. And the first case of coronavirus to hit one native reservation caused the whole tribe, the tribal council, to banish her from her home. Here's a picture of the woman and her husband. They're not Lakota. This is on Pine Ridge Reservation, one of the, if not the most impoverished native reservation in America. And this couple decided to answer the call to come and teach at a Jesuit college on the reservation. They were living there. They chose to live there. And even as this article in BuzzFeed says, the people in Pine Ridge Reservation, they appreciate that. They know that leaving the rest of the world to come and live in that community, not just work in that community, live in that community, is something that a lot of people would choose not to do. But this couple did it. They decided to go and live there. And it turns out this woman had a surgery scheduled in California, and she went to the surgery the day before the reservation made a proclamation that people were supposed to quarantine in place. The day before, she was already on the road with her husband to California to go get the surgery. I don't know what kind of surgery it was. I don't know if it was elective or not. All I can tell you is that when she was going through Denver, Colorado, they got a call from the hospital telling them that all surgeries, that all of them had been canceled, including hers, and that she should turn around and go back home, which she did. And by the time they arrived, she wasn't feeling well. They immediately self-quarantined when they arrived because there was already a stay-in-place, sheltering-in-place order. And several days, almost 5 days after she got home, she had started to check all of the boxes for coronavirus symptoms. So she had to be taken to a hospital. And when her husband went back to the reservation to collect, household items, toothbrush, clothes, medication, CPAP machine, all the things that they would need for him to be close to his wife while she's in the hospital, he gets a phone call telling him, "You've been banished from the reservation and we have boarded up your house. You can't come back here.
Wow.
All your belongings, everything in there, you can't come back during a pandemic."
Yeah.
Not only may you lose your wife, don't worry, folks, she's fine. At the time, though.
Yeah.
At the time, you can imagine how this guy felt. Not only could your wife be losing her battle, but also you just lost all your belongings and your home. And by the way, get out.
Yep.
You can't come back to this reservation. And interestingly, Chase Iron Eyes, the Refuse Fascism guy, the guy that brought you all of the arrests from Last Child Camp here in North Dakota, the guy that had a scandal where his naked picture was circulating the internet right before he started his congressional campaign. That guy was quoted in here as speaking on behalf of the Pine Ridge Reservation,
Oh, boy.
which, as far as I was aware, he's not a part of. But I guess he's the spokesperson for all Indians.
Yep.
As saying that while he doesn't like the way that this particular case was handled, it did make the crisis very real for a lot of the people on the Pine Ridge Reservation. They were like, "Dang, you could get in big trouble if you get the coronavirus." Yeah. So maybe we should take this more seriously. But nobody on the council reached out to this family and asked them their side of the story. When they were interviewed with BuzzFeed, they were told, BuzzFeed was told that, they didn't leave when there was a shelter-in-place order, which is one of the reasons they were banished, because the tribal council told the media they banished the couple, confiscated all their goods, and basically threw them out during a pandemic because one of them got sick, because they felt that this woman and man, who are not part of their reservation and not Indian, decided to put the whole reservation at risk by going to a hotspot for COVID, which is California, not knowing the family never made it there, not knowing that the woman didn't start feeling sick until she got back from Denver, Colorado. Well, she stopped in Denver, Colorado, right before they told her that she didn't have a surgery scheduled anymore. So how do you feel about that? What do you think about this, woman being basically kicked out of her home, and this man being kicked out of his home during...
We're down. I get a picture of this.
Okay, that's all right. You go ahead.
Cover for me, please.
I totally will. Duke's having some technical difficulties, and I am helping him take care of it. But let me tell you that, banishment is pretty harsh. This isn't like, telling someone that you're going to give them a fine or putting somebody in jail, or, if the tribal council felt that these folks had violated the stay-at-home orders, why would it be any different than a state like Minnesota, where you get a fine, right, for leaving your home?
Exactly.
Or being out when you're not supposed to be doing something you're not supposed to. Here, their confiscation of everything these folks own and being banished forever. Banishment is forever, for life. You can never come back. Incidentally, the article reveals that the last person to be banished forever, for good, was South Dakota's governor, Kristi Noem. She's the last person that got banished from Pine Ridge Reservation due to her support for the KXL pipeline, for her cracking down on the protesters of the KXL pipeline, the Indigenous Environmental Network, Chase Iron Eyes, all these folks, right? So I don't know how folks feel about this. I think that the response was totally uncalled for. If a Native American person is caught with the virus, are they going to banish them too? Or is it only for non-Native people that catch it living on the reservation? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like pretty harsh. What do you think, Duke?
Well, it. I don't know how they'll really treat other Indigenous people. I mean, they have a right to be in their own land, but also the teachers have a right to be in their in their jobs and in their housing that they're paying for and that sort of thing. So I think it's pretty harsh. I think it's that they're naive. They don't know what's going on. They're teaching the wrong aspects of the taking care of yourself, on how to quarantine, because we have to quarantine people. We have to care for people in our community and help them quarantine, help teach them on what they're supposed to do. I think they're spreading ignorance by banishing someone from the reservation, because that's not going to stop the virus from coming in. If they're going to do like they're doing in northern Minnesota and have a curfew that people can't even leave their house, those are drastic measures because people aren't paying attention. So I think they're doing a disservice, and they're teaching people the wrong message by doing it the way they did it.
For folks just joining us, you are listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves tonight. I am talking about all of these crazy COVIDiots that seem to have some kind of a death wish because they want to go out for the dumbest reasons, put themselves on the line for the dumbest reasons, including protesting. I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Why? Why are they putting their lives at risk? Some of the comments that we are getting, Sherry says, I am a conservative and have seen or read way too much about it. Not that bad. Way too much about it's not that bad. We're losing our constitutional rights, etc. I think the push is so that people get back to work. Oh, Sherry, I agree with you 100%. I think so too. I think that the push is so everyone will feel guilty, will feel like they're lazy, like they're not contributing to the economy, and will be pressured into going out into the world.
Yeah.
And whatever your stance is, I respect differing opinions, folks. Whatever your stance is, I respect it. I think that no one should be forced to go and put their lives at risk, especially if they're high risk or elderly. And I think that they should have the ability, the support, financial, communal support to stay home if they need to, especially if they're high-risk people. And I think that the president supports that. I believe the president has said so in his press conferences. Even though he is pushing to reopen the economy, he believes, and I believe that he respects those who need to stay at home. And we need to keep those people at home. Marilee writes to us, Nance, that she heard a report by an epidemiologist that said that because the kids were taken out of school, we would guarantee a resurgence in the fall because there is no herd immunity. I don't think people think that herd immunity is not what you think it is or what people think it is. Herd immunity is not when everyone catches it. It is when enough people, all of the people around you have built up the ability to fight against it, and they can't catch it. They're not catching it, so they can't give it to you. And there's one person that has no immunity to it, but they're not catching it because the people around them
aren't spreading it.
Can't contract it and spread it to you. So it's not a race to see how many people can get infected and get over it. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to lessen the numbers of people that die. And I'm going to repeat this because I think it's worth saying over again. That if we hadn't overwhelmed our healthcare system in places like New York, people that needed to go to the hospital wouldn't have needlessly died in their homes. People that had heart attacks, that had seizures, that had car accidents, that couldn't get treated or that were too scared to go to the hospital and died not in a hospital because COVID was too frightening or too full in the hospital, could have been saved. Those deaths could have been prevented. In addition to the fact that there are a lot of people that, because there wasn't enough staff to monitor and care for that individual and do all of the intensive care that goes along with saving someone's life, including posture drainage, and all sorts of other forms of respiratory therapies, we would have a lot more people we could save if we had the staffing that was adequate for this kind of a high-risk situation. And that is why I think that is so important that we consider the fact that if we open up everything again and everyone goes back to work, all we're going to be doing is a new wave of death. That's what's coming. A new wave of death. Joseph comments, and Joseph has been on our show before. He's part of the scientific world, and very much into epidemiology. He says, we don't know what high risk is for the U.S. We are basing it on data from China and Europe. Oh, I've talked about this, Joe. we have a lot of obese people. We have a lot of people with diabetes. We have a lot of people with heart disease here. And it's very different than China, than Singapore, than South Korea. So far, data from China, data from Europe. So far, the curve is shifting in the U.S. More people in the age of 30 to 50 age are dying because we are younger, more diverse nation. Lots of black people, lots of people with diabetes, ding, 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 anti-inflammatory diseases. More kids are dying here than elsewhere. Also, herd immunity is 40 to 60% for flu is considered sufficient, 93% for measles. It depends on the virus. And with this thing, with it being so contagious, with it being so deadly, no one knows for COVID in the absence of a vaccine. There you go, folks.
Yep.
And we're not going to have a vaccine for a long time. So we either protect our lives, protect the lives of those we care about, or we're going to put them at risk. And folks, let me share with you what's going on at our border. We have migrants that are stuck at the Guatemala-Mexico border in the southern part of the Mexican peninsula. And you have all of these migrants that are stuck there because, as you know, Guatemala has guarded their border to not allow any migrants to be pushed into Guatemala. They don't even want to take their own citizens. They won't take their own citizens, much less the citizens of Honduras, El Salvador, or any other neighboring countries. So people that are part of these caravans, people that were traveling, whether they paid for someone to smuggle them or they were kidnapped and turned into the sex trafficking or human trafficking trade, they're being left on their own. And so really has the whole country of Mexico. Somebody posted this AMLO Antoinette meme where he says, "Let them eat cake." AMLO, the meme reads, confronted with the healthcare system falling apart in Mexico. The question from the sick people is, the hospitals and the medical staff is, what will we do with all of our sick? And response from AMLONet is, let them eat cake. So, I mean, it really is showing him to be a kind of rather callous to the suffering, the human tragedy that will befall all of Mexico, but especially the people that the Border Support Network dragged across the continent so that they could make money off of their giant smuggling operation. And now it's all crashing. All of it's crashing down. None of the shelters have any resources. A local story in the Baja California, this one is from the Tijuana El Sol paper, shares the headline that the shelters have no resources. And you know why? They don't get any donations locally. They get very few donations locally. If you read this article, which is in Spanish, so I'll have to tell you what it says. But if you read this article, it tells you that these shelters, Hugo Castro's immigrant embassy included and quoted in this article, say that they get most of their funding from the U.S. They were always getting most of their funding from the U.S. Remember when yours truly, a Mexican Crossing Lines, told you that a lot of the shelters that were being run across the border were funded and run by Americans that were part of this smuggling operation? Mm-hmm. Here's the proof in the pudding, folks. They don't get any money because of the pandemic, because of the shutdown of the border, because they can't cross merchandise donations and money anymore. And they're activists, the hypocritical activists that told you that they cared so much about the immigrants, they don't want to have anything to do with these shelters right now because they don't want to catch the COVID. They're treating the immigrants as if they were lepers now that there's the COVID. They want to protect their lives. But what about the immigrants that you brought here under false pretenses to seek asylum? What about their lives? Too bad. They are left to deal with things on their own. And let me share the latest about Hugo Castro. Remember, on my last show, I told you he was dragging the immigrants out to do public theater, recreating the Stations of the Cross in order to get donations and sympathy for his band of merry immigrants, misfits.
Yep.
And I told you they weren't social distancing properly. They weren't wearing masks. They weren't wearing any PPE. And yet they were out there making a spectacle of themselves. Where in this article, where it details that Hugo Castro was fired a while back and was quietly let go. I actually didn't know about this scandal, but I've learned a lot more about it and will continue to dig deep into this story. But it says here, Hugo Castro was the one who was working with us. The director of Border Angels told the press that they received a communication of Hugo Castro committing domestic abuse and inappropriate conduct. I'm not sure what that means. Inappropriate conduct. Is that sexual? Otherwise? I don't know. I think domestic abuse means he beat up his wife. I think that's pretty clear. And then they suspended him with pay at the time. They gave him this notification on February 21st. Remember that date? It's an important date because that's the same date that Hugo Castro claims they tried to come and sequester, basically kidnap the migrants at that shelter and summarily shut it down. So now he's posting all about the supposed sequester of the migrants and how scared they were and they thought they were going to be kidnapped, as many of them have been victims of kidnapping in the past. But now it's the Border Angels, the organization he so faithfully worked for so many years, that is doing the kidnapping and that is doing the wrongdoing. But here, the director that fired him, that took over, is telling the press that they were paying him, even after they suspended him with pay, they were paying him the entire time that he worked with Border Angels $2,500, not pesos, folks, dollars per month in Tijuana. You realize how much money that is to get $2,500 a month as a person that's earning in dollars while living in Mexico, where the peso to the dollar is such a difference? And if you scroll down, they also accuse him. They say that they gave him $18,000 in his personal account, that when the previous director, Enrique Morones, quit, he gave this man, Hugo Castro, $18,000 for renovations that he never completed, and that prior to that, in 2018, they had given him $50,000, as you can see there highlighted, for the procurement of this shelter, the immigrant embassy that they call it, and to fix it, and that they don't know what he did with the money, but he sure didn't do what he was given the money to do. He didn't do it. So now it comes out that, oh, by the way, he beat his wife. Oh, by the way, there was a complaint of inappropriate misconduct. Oh, by the way, we suspended his work without pay, and about us doing anything inappropriate, like trying to kidnap migrants and shut down shelters and violate the rights, the human rights of migrants, which he is alleging. There is a fight now. And now the Border Angel visit some of the shelters, I'm sure Hugo Castro's and hers included. So now this is a fight. This is a feud between the couple, right? This couple. There's been some kind of a falling out because he beat her. And that was one of the things that they made known to public. So there's no more donations from San Diego, where Border Angels is fun. They have their headquarters. There's no more donations from the United States for all these shelters that are part of this smuggling operation. And on the 14th of April, just yesterday, Hugo Castro came out to give his version of events, to tell people he quit. He quit them. They didn't fire me. I quit.
Oh, yeah.
I quit my job because of all of the things they were doing, because they came on February 21st in the middle of the night, scared us, tried to kidnap the people that were there. And he said that this was completely inappropriate and that there was a woman there that told them they would not take the migrants away. You know, he's trying to make it seem that not only were they abandoning the migrants, that they told the migrants, and this is a quote in the article where he makes these accusations, that they were going to be on their own. They were going to remove them from the embassy of the migrant. They were going to take them to another temporary location where they were going to be given housing for a month, and then they were on their own. And this facility was going to be torn down. That's what they were told on the 21st of February, according to the counter accusations being made by this Hugo Castro. Incidentally, as I looked this up, I find out that this woman that was quoted saying that Hugo Castro beat his wife and that they put him on paid leave and all of this other stuff is not the woman that just recently, as recently as April 13, was listed as a lawyer and the executive director of Border Angels, Dulce Garcia. So I'm not sure who's really running the ship anymore, because there's all sorts of people that are spokespersons, supposedly, for Border Angels, speaking on behalf of Border Angels. And it just looks like a complete crazy, everything is going out the window and everyone is going under the bus. But they are in it. They were told to take care of themselves, and Hugo Castro has now on his own Instagram, because the Border Angels Instagram is no longer at his disposal. Yeah. So he's using his own Instagram to share the stories of all of these different migrants that are accusing Border Angels of violating their rights and scaring them. In this mix of accusations flying back and forth, there's also article that dates back to February in which the Border Angels former executive director, Enrique Morones, also of the narco wedding at the border with Border Patrol agents fame. You remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that organized a wedding for narcos with Border Patrol in attendance? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That Enrique Morones, in this article in Zeta Libre, accuses the organization Border Angels as a whole of not protecting migrants, of, in fact, abusing migrants, taking advantage of migrants, and being in it just to make money. Well, there's the other shoe. It just dropped. Yep. Border Angels, he claims, at the time that he was in it, had 11 members on its board. And after he resigned for unknown reasons, that most of the people on the board also resigned, and that the people left within the organization were just opportunists in it for the money. And that would of course, include Gaba, Hugo, and all of the other charlatans running that organization. Or shall I call it a criminal enterprise, because that is what it truly is. Well, let me just tell you that there are a number of organizations that now might want to wipe the ick that is Border Angels off their shoe, but I'm not going to let you forget who they are. Here, the Mexican Standoff's Instagram links the caravan organization, which is Pueblos Sin Fronteras, to Border Angels. Don't forget that. And let me show you here that the EP, the record proceeds, are going to go to Raíces and Border Angels. Look at who all was in support and gave money to this criminal enterprise, who worked with them, alongside them, for them. And let me just share with you that they are going to have this press conference is going to be juicy information that they talk about, because they're mentioning there's a lawsuit. They're mentioning that there is going to be a lawsuit. I don't know who's suing who, but there is a lawsuit, and I'm going to bring you all the juicy details as everyone goes under this bus. And I'm also going to remind you of all the con artists, of all of the mercenary activists that were bringing people here under the false accusation, the false pretenses of getting them asylum, because now they are desperate to get them out of jail. They are desperate to get them out of the detention facilities. They're desperate to get you to give to the funds for the food, for the housing for these people to get through the pandemic, because they can't work, because they don't have work permits, because nobody can work. And these people brought them here. So now they have to resolve the situation. All of that will be coming up on my upcoming episodes of A Mexican Crossing Lines. And as I leave you, I would like to leave you with some good news. Here is a video of a woman. This woman had very severe COVID. She had one of the more severe cases. She's a pregnant woman that had to give, due to the complications of her very severe case of COVID, she had to give birth while in a medically induced coma. And this video is the first time she gets to meet her newborn baby when she's leaving the hospital, surrounded by the cheers of the hospital workers. Well, that's a happy reunion.
Yeah.
Won't it be great when we can all wrap our arms around our loved ones and tell them that we love them face to face instead of over a video chat?
Exactly.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Folks, that's all I have for you today here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. God bless and good night.